Hi, this is Dr. C, and today we're going to talk about something that I hadn't anticipated talking about, but I noticed when I go shopping in the grocery store and all, they sell an awful lot, not just of water, but of canned soda as well. Amazing the amount of soda that's sold. It's the second highest beverage that's sold in the United States. Canned colas. Not necessarily colas, but the canned sodas at any rate. But let me tell you a little bit about cola. And I'm not going to define colas as Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, whatever. Colas in general, okay? 50% of Americans drink colas every day, half of America. And they average about 2.5 glasses of cola a day. A day. Amazing. The only country that drinks more of this is Mexico. So, what happens when you drink that can of cola? What's in it? What is so addictive about cola that people gotta have it? Well, the results of drinking that soda every day, you're going to gain weight, number one. In fact, when they've done studies on this, the people who drank their colas every day, they gained over 10 pounds in 4 years. Simply difference, the colas. Number two, you double your chances of getting diabetes. Double. Number three, you increase your risk of coronary artery disease by at least 20%. Number four, you increase your risk of cancer of the pancreas or gallbladder. Number five, you do get fatty livers, and I'll explain how. You do risk making your obstructive pulmonary disease, your lung disease, worse, or your asthma worse. You also accelerate tooth decay as well. And you do get somewhat addicted to it, as I mentioned right at the beginning. So those are the things that we're seeing as a result of drinking those colas every day. So let's talk a little bit about what's in it. What does the cola have in it? Well, it's a sweet drink. Sweet. In fact, it has a lot of sugar in it. How much sugar does it have? 9 3/4 teaspoons of sugar. That's a 12-ounce glass or a 12-ounce bottle or a 12-ounce can. 9 3/4 teaspoons of sugar. 39 grams of sugar. That is equal to the total amount that an adult male should have the entire day, one can of cola. It's more than an adult woman should have in a day. They should only have 26 to 28 grams a day. So in other words, if a lady drinks that can of Coke, already she's over the amount of sugar she should have that day. Now, why is sugar? I don't have to tell you why sugar is bad. You shouldn't have to have sugar. You don't have to add sugar to anything because there are alternatives. Now, what does Coke have besides that sugar, and how do they get by with putting it in there in the first place? Well, they use a thing called high fructose corn syrup. Now, sucrose, which is sugar, is a mixture of glucose and fructose. You got the two, called sucrose. The glucose, when you drink it, it's absorbed right away. Goes immediately, gets absorbed, goes into the liver, you use it as energy. That's glucose. Fructose is not a normal sugar to have in your body. So your body has not developed any metabolism of fructose. Fructose is very sweet, sweeter than glucose actually. It's a very sweet sugar. In itself, fructose is not harmful. But when you make high fructose corn syrup, that is a major issue. And they use that in Coca-Cola for a sweetener. Now, the high fructose corn syrup is made from corn, but it's the way they make it that makes a big difference in how bad it is. So that fructose, when you take it in, whether it's in a syrup form, whatever, which is in the cola, it doesn't get absorbed very well. Eventually, you drink enough of it, some of it gets absorbed. The one that gets absorbed, that little bit that gets absorbed, goes to the liver, and it gets placed as in the storage in your liver. You can develop a fatty liver with the fructose-related triglycerides that are in the liver. So that's how you can develop a fatty liver, simply by taking in excessive amounts of fructose. The majority of the fructose goes all the way through to the large intestine. That's where the microbiome, the bacteria that are in that large intestine, they can metabolize the fructose. And it does change the pattern, the amounts of that microbiome in your gut. They're still studying how all these different foods are interacting with the microbiota, the bacteria in the gut. And so, in the gut, therefore, the microbiome generally will make little fatty acids, the short-chain fatty acids. The short-chain fatty acids react with the lining of the large intestine, and it produces a little mucus on there. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. In fact, the better the quality of that mucus, the better that large intestine will function. But we don't know how some of these other things will interact then with that bacteria now that is working on that fructose. So, what else in the intestine, now that you've taken this in, what other things are in there? Well, first of all, there's caffeine. There's 39 grams of caffeine in the Coke. The caffeine begins to kick in after a little bit. The very first thing that kicks in, of course, is the glucose that gets absorbed. Bang, right away. That gets immediate. In about 15 minutes or so, your blood sugar goes up a little bit. Normally, when that blood sugar goes up, you secrete insulin because your body doesn't like that sugar up too high. Give them a little insulin. The insulin then allows that sugar to be absorbed, or that glucose to be absorbed, and you get a normal blood sugar back again. The fructose, however, creates a resistance to that insulin, makes your body more resistant to insulin. That's another kind of a bad thing. Now, getting back to the caffeine, 30 minutes or so takes, the caffeine got absorbed. What does that do? Well, you begin to get the pulse rate up a little bit. That's the very first thing. Blood pressure may come up a little bit. That may be good, may be bad, you don't know. But you do feel energized as a result of that blood pressure going up a little bit. And that's after about roughly 30 minutes. Now, what happens in maybe about 40 minutes or so? 40 minutes or so after you've swigged that Coke down, it does cross the blood-brain barrier, and you begin to get an effect in the brain. Dopamine. Dopamine is known as the feel-good hormone. So it makes you feel good. So remember all those ads that Coke has had over the years. It's the real thing, it said. That was one of the first things. And you all remember that famous Mean Joe Green ad that they put on during the Super Bowl and all. Mean Joe swigged that Coke down in about 10 seconds. Didn't take him long at all. He didn't need the energy. The game was over. But would have given him a little energy if he took it a little earlier. Maybe he would have won the game. I don't know. We'll see. But at any rate, after about 40 minutes or so, you get a release of this dopamine. After about an hour, you begin to get the effect of the two acids that are in there, the phosphoric acid and the citric acid. Both of them are in the Coke as well. What kind of an effect do you have? You get the enamel of your teeth. That citric acid begins to form around the teeth, and it invades the enamel of the teeth. Also in the bone in the body, it thins the bones a little. And so if you take excessive amounts of caffeine in that Coke, you may begin to get a little osteopenia, and your teeth begin to have a little problem as well. We see that more with kids than with adults, but you can see it with both. So, and it takes about an hour for it to really work. Also, in about an hour, you got to go and pee. You got to pee out all that liquid. Most of it's water anyway. You pee it out. There's a diuretic effect that comes with the caffeine as well. Okay? So, all these things happen as a result of that one bottle or can of Coke. Now, can you get away from it at all? Well, some people try, well, I'm going to have Diet Coke. Okay. You go to the store, you see that list, all that line. It's a whole line of different Cokes. You got different flavored Cokes. You got Diet Coke. You have caffeine-free Coke, sugar-free Coke. There's all sorts of different types of Coke that are out there. I'm going to talk only about the Diet Coke, just that alone. What do they use as a substitute for sugar? They use aspartame. Now, aspartame is a sugar in itself, but it also, if you take excessive amounts of aspartame, you can get a neurotoxicity, like a neuropathy type effect. You will read right on the label, too, if they have aspartame in it. If you have phenylketonuria, which is one disease that kids can get, you should not have any aspartame at all. Aspartame can also cause chronic headaches if you happen to have a sensitivity to it. Okay? What else is in the Diet Coke now? Well, the Diet Coke, just like regular Coke, if you read the label, it has caramel color. Now what? Nothing wrong with caramel, right? It's just sugar water, basically, that they heat a little bit and gets that nice caramel color, and very tasty. It's the way they produce the caramel color. Under pressure, adding a little ammonia to it, adding a little bit of nitrite to it. They add these things under pressure and they form the caramel color. Well, that caramel color basically has carcinogens in it. They've found out the ones that are in it. And I'm just going to use the labeling that they put, 2-MI and 4-MI. It obviously stands for chemical names, but nevertheless, there are carcinogens in that caramel color. Not in caramel, caramel color. That's in both the diet as well as in the regular cola. They also use artificial colors. Well, how much coloring is there? Well, there's natural colors and then there's artificial colors. Artificial colors are pure chemicals. Pure chemicals. The natural colors, just like the natural flavors, have to come from either a plant or an animal as an origin. But the manufacturers of these things, like Coke and Pepsi, etc., they don't have to put it on the label how they've produced this. They just say caramel color. They don't have to put it on the label because the FDA doesn't require them to. And if they don't require them to, they're not going to do it. They only say artificial color. That's it, artificial color. But you're going to be smart enough now to know they're talking about chemicals that produce that color. There's absolutely no nutritional value to a Diet Coke. None. 0 calories. No nutritional value whatsoever to a Diet Coke. So why are you drinking it? It's got these other things that are potentially harmful. Much rather drink a bottle of water. Much better. So, at any rate, those are the things that are in there. And what can diet sodas do to you? Well, we mentioned at the beginning some of the things that you see by drinking that can of Coke every day. Well, what can you get from drinking Diet Coke every day? If you drink it, and they've done some studies now, up to 10, even 12 years now, of drinking their cola drinks and diet cola drinks. 23% increase in heart failure in people who chronically drink their diet colas. 30% decreased function in the kidneys, simply drinking that diet soda every day. They can get a thing called metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome has to do with, first of all, diabetes, lack of insulin resistance, that type of thing. 30% increase of metabolic syndrome. You get increased body fat. That dark fat that's in the belly increases. That's why you get the pear shape now. Instead of the hourglass shape, you get a pear shape now. And that pear shape may increase to a rubber tire in the future too. So your waist size increases. How many people get diabetes? Well, roughly about 2/3 of the people who drink their diet colas every day develop diabetes later in life. 2/3. Obviously, weight is an issue. Remember I told you, just like drinking your cola every day, remember I told you also that you gained 10 pounds over the course of just 4 years with your regular Coke? Well, now they've followed this Diet Coke for 10 years, and you can get the same amount of 10-pound weight gain over that period of time. Where did that come from? Came from that fructose. Remember, that fructose does have an effect on your body, and you can get your fatty liver from it as well. What else does it do? Well, believe it or not, in those 10-year studies, you get a lot of enamel loss. A lot of people lost teeth. A lot of people developed osteopenia, a thinning of the bones, and some of them even developed osteoporosis as a result of drinking that Diet Coke. Now, somebody we even went even further in that 10-year study. They looked at the mental health, cognitive studies that they've done on people like that. And they found only an increase in depression. Now, I don't know if there actually is a relationship of depression to drinking colas or not. I can't tell you that. I don't know that. But the fact of the matter is those who drank it for a long period of time had an increased incidence of depression as well. Also, gout. Gout developed because what happens with a Diet Cola, you increase your uric acid. This is the thing that killed the kidneys. This is why the 30% decrease in the kidney function, because of that uric acid and gout. There's a hormone in the body that's called leptin. Leptin. It's produced in the brain. That gives you the feeling of hunger. And you do get hungry after you've had your Diet Coke. That's because of that decrease in the leptin in the brain. That's why you eat a little more. And so that's why you gain the weight, because of that. So, well, how many calories are in Coke? Well, remember, if you take the calories away by using the fructose and all, you have other problems from the fructose. Always look on that label. It isn't just diet sodas that have the high fructose corn syrup in it. Incidentally, that high fructose corn syrup, I've been doing some reading lately on genetically modified, or genetic engineering, I should say, of foods. Do you know that soy, 93% of all the soy produced in the United States is genetically engineered? And do you know that 88% of the corn that's produced in the United States is genetically engineered? That's where the stuff is coming from for the corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, from those genetically engineered corn. Now, is that good or bad? Well, like I said, I'm going to have a whole show on genetic engineering and genetically modified organisms, which is the GMO, and genetically modified foods as well. It's a very interesting thing, a little more detailed because, you know, that it's a subject unto itself. And I'll go into a little more detail about that when we talk about these things. So what is the bottom line to all this? Well, the bottom line basically is read your label. Read your label. That carbonated water that's in all these sodas produce the carbonic acid, eats the enamel. The citric acid eats the enamel. Phosphoric acid eats the enamel. Caramel color, remember that. Remember the caffeine. You can't forget the fact that it has the caffeine in it as well. And of course, the sugar itself, which is a big issue. Now, I noticed too on the last Diet Cola can, I looked at the can itself, it also did have a thing in it called potassium benzoate. Benzoate. Now, there's sodium or potassium benzoate. What is that stuff, benzoate? Well, the FDA says that's okay. It's generally determined to be safe. But the problem with benzoates, not just the sodium but the potassium benzoate, it breaks down, and if you happen to add a little vitamin C, ascorbic acid to it, you can get benzene. Now, what about benzene itself? Well, benzene happens to be a carcinogen. Now, how can you guarantee that you're not going to have that benzoic acid convert to benzene in your body? Of course, the amount that you drink, if you just drink one can, you're not going to get very much. But read the label. Read the label, because you need to think about these things before you drink them, not after. Now, you can drink it, but my gosh, after it does the harm to you, you really don't need to think about it then. So you need to limit your sugar intake, like I said. You need to take no more than that 1 can. And believe it or not, don't even take that can. You can better use the sugars, the natural sugars that are in the fruits and the vegetables and the other things in the plants that have natural sugar, which is absorbed well, does not cause that problem with the liver like you can with the fructose, especially that high fructose corn syrup and all. So what got me into this now was the calories. In cola drinks, you have roughly 88 or 89 calories. Mostly sugar calories, obviously. You can get some drinks that are even higher, like Mountain Dew. You can get a high from Mountain Dew, 109 calories, all from sugar. And you combine the sugar and the caffeine, that's what all of the energy drinks have. Combination, caffeine, and sugar. You can really get pretty high with 2 or 3 Red Bulls. Of course, nothing wrong with a little energy, but you know, the body pays the price for that additional pushed energy like that. So, at any rate, that's about all I have to say about colas. I don't want to put colas down because, you know, they do seem to have a positive effect in the world. But look at all the negatives. What are you going to do with all those cans, with all those bottles? They're going to go out into the atmosphere, or out into the environment. Now you got to deal with them in another way. So you got to think about all the alternative problems that have resulted from that second highest beverage sale in the United States, the soda drinks. So that's about it for today. I'm very happy that you were able to join me. And I will have, as I promised, that very interesting topic of the GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and all of the results of genetic engineering that we're facing at the present time. So I look forward to talking to you again about that interesting subject. Stay away from those colas. Stay away from those bottled sodas. Drink water. Very good. Thank you, and it's been very nice talking to you today. Bye-bye.